This is the Final Word Women's World Cup Daily. Day 21, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. The show is brought to you by Lacuna Sports. You can focus on your kit when Lacuna have your kit covered. No, you can focus on your game. They can focus on your kit. That's how it works. It goes one way, it goes the other. Daniel Norcross has been focusing on this game today, which was Bangladesh-Sri Lanka. Daniel, could you please wrap it all up in the space of 30 seconds?
I've never seen a more slow-moving car crash in my entire life. There was one collapse of 6 wickets for 28. That sounds quite exciting, doesn't it? But it took for bloody ever for it to happen. And then there was another collapse of 5 wickets for 2 runs at the other end that ensured that Bangladesh, yet again, failed to get over the line. How they did it, I do not know. If Nigar Sultana Jyoti is not currently being administered to by at least 16 psychiatrists and soothed to sleep by a choir of angels, then she is in deep, deep trouble. That was the maddest game of cricket I've ever seen, but my God, it took forever to happen. Sri Lanka win. Bangladesh, yet again, did not.
They lost by 7 runs, Bangladesh. Jyoti, the captain, made 77 and was out in the last over, an over in which they lost 4 wickets in 4 balls. However, this will be presented as a surprise. It will be presented as a shock that the job wasn't finished. I mean, this is a Bangladesh team that should have beat South Africa and didn't, should have beat England and didn't, and should have beat Sri Lanka and didn't. They should be playing a semi-final. They should have locked up a semi-final by now. But sometimes, I mean, everybody complains about commentary, but the commentary was dead wrong for the entire second half of the second innings. Not yours, Daniel, the television, because they kept saying that this was Bangladesh's game. They kept saying that, oh, well, they've just got to get a runner ball from here. If Bangladesh are chasing and they need a runner ball, that's too many for Bangladesh to chase. They're not built to do that. I don't mean that in a joking, disparaging way. I mean, it's not their strength. When Bangladesh were bowling against South Africa, then they should have won that game. Then they were ahead in that game until they weren't. Bangladesh batting and chasing, needing a runner ball was too much. And the fact that they let it get to a runner ball was the absurd part when they only needed 203 to win. That comes down to the top order stuff again. That comes down to Pinky, cap number 1, their most experienced player in terms of time spent in this team, who's opening, they do a little biographical video clip before this tournament. And she says, I'm an opening bat. My job is to play aggressively at the top and get the team off to a good start. She made 7 off 35 balls today. And I understand, like, seeing off the seamers when you're playing South Africa and you're facing Marizanne Cap. The Sri Lankan seamers are not as fearsome a proposition as that. You could probably try to score, say, 17 off 35 balls against them. Even that would be a more reasonable approach than just the complete dead batting. So the fact that it was a runner ball through the final few overs of the game, the fact that it was 12 needed from the last 2 overs, that's not advantage Bangladesh given their lack of prowess with chasing and their lack of experience with finishing off games in this way. I thought Sri Lanka had the advantage from that sort of 35th over point when Sharman Akhtar had to retire hurt, and that felt like it was going to be a problem with the disruption to that partnership, and indeed that's what it turned out to be.
Well, I make a general principle of never listening to TV commentary for all sorts of obvious reasons. Part of them is that I'm commentating on the radio at the same time, and the other part is that I can see with my own eyes what the hell's going on, so I don't need someone to say, great shot. But, or indeed, oh, they're going to need some more runs here. However, putting aside how I feel about TV commentary or otherwise as a discipline of great artistry, what we witnessed today was Sri Lanka on top for most of the game. And this was the thing. Now, it is definitely true that during the partnership that took Bangladesh up to 176 for 3, needing a mere 28 more runs to win, with Shauna Akhtar at the crease on 19, batting pretty comfortably, Nigar Sultana Jyoti working the ball around and actually moving, finding gaps. You did think, oh, they've done this now. But there are some ball statistics for you. 12 fours. 12 fours, that's all that Bangladesh scored. Yep. They did get a 6. And the 6 was one of the more hilarious 6s because it took place, I can remember it precisely, I was just buying a drink in the bar in my hotel, and it was 12 for 1 off 7, in chasing 200 and whatever it was to win, 204 or 5.
203.
And I thought, 12 for 1 off 7. That's this is slower even than it's felt like watching it. And then suddenly, the ball was whacked for 6 by a Sharman actor. Wallop. Fantastic. This increased the score by 50% in one ball off the 43rd ball of the innings. That's not a great sign. So you've got, I've just given you the 12 fours and 1 6. What did Sri Lanka do? Well, they actually put together 23 fours and 5 sixes. That is what I might have expected from Sri Lanka, a side that is a bit more built for batting. Their bowling is a little bit more of a concern. It's their batting that has become more of a strength. The likes of Jamari Atabatu are now being supplemented by Hassani Pereira. She got 85 today, batted really well off 99 balls. Today wasn't Samara Wickrama's day, but we've seen what she can do in this series. Nilakshika De Silva has come on leaps and bounds, and you know how? By playing cricket. She's been around for a very long time, but she barely played a one-day international for a few years because the Sri Lankan Cricket Board didn't give them any games. Today, 37 off 38, couple of sixes. There was a bit of power there. There was then the most magnificent sort of anti-cricket period, because watching this, you thought Sri Lanka here, this looks like a good deck. I'm thinking, aha, this is what Navi Mumbai is all about. 174 for 4 off 31 overs. Given that Bangladesh are a decent bowling side and Sri Lanka are only a reasonable batting side, you're thinking 250 minimum here, right? You get the magnificent collapse, love a magnificent collapse, but one of the more amusing moments of today was an 18-run ninth wicket partnership that took 12.2 overs to unfurl.
A match-winning 18-run partnership.
It turned out to be a match-winning partnership. I turned to my colleagues at the time and said, it's all very well batting the overs, but you need to score runs when you do it. Well, bugger me, how wrong was I? They scored, as it turned out, the necessary extra 4 runs to win the game. Then we go to
Bangladesh. Seven runs in the end, so they scored 2.5 times more than they needed. Yeah,
correct. And then when you're watching Bangladesh, you're thinking, geez, this Sri Lankan attack just doesn't have the means to solve this problem. The issue for Bangladesh is that the moment, as you say, it gets to a runner ball, panic ensues. I'm not sure I've ever seen a funnier last over in my life. Genuinely hilarious. 9 needed off 6, 9 needed off 2, and 4 wickets had gone down. I mean, you just got to love it. From 193 for 4 with 8 balls to go, there are 194 for 9. We've seen some of the daftest, some of the craziest cricket, and it's really born out of the fact that you've got two sides who are desperate to prove both to the world, to themselves, and to their boards that they are worthy of money and attention and investment. And we all know that they are. I've watched these sides play throughout this World Cup, and I've seen more than flickers. Like, Sri Lanka would probably have beaten New Zealand if the rain hadn't come. Bangladesh, as you mentioned, they should have beaten England. They've been on top of sides. They've bowled really, really well. They've fielded really well. And yet, somehow today, they managed to get to a point when they dropped their 10th consecutive catch. Right? That's like, where has this come from? Because their ground fielding is splendid. There's so much that's good and so much that is to love about both these sides. But what you're witnessing is desperation on both their parts. Desperation to be noticed, desperation to be loved, desperation to be appreciated, desperation to be acknowledged. And when that happens, it creates a magnificent theatre, albeit a very slow-moving one, a little bit like O.J. Simpson running away from the cops at 25 miles an hour. But it was nonetheless heartbreaking, I felt, for Bangladesh, who have been my favourite team of the tournament. And how I don't know what are they going to do to win a game?
Me too.
What do they actually have to do to win a game?
They have to be chasing less than 200. I mean, I was just looking at the numbers now. They've chased over 200 to win 3 times ever in history. They've chased, twice. They've got a score bigger than what they needed to get today. So even getting to 200 was, I mean, even when Sri Lanka were 180, like that could be enough against a Bangladesh team batting second, because that's when you can put pressure on. I'll run people through a couple of bits of the game. So Maurice Blackburn starts it out with that incredible in-swing again, hits Gunaratne on the pad. Definitely too high, says the commentary, because it hit her above the knee roll. The trick is she's about 4'6", so above the knee roll is okay, as long as it's in line with the stumps, which indeed it was. Chamari Adipatu, equally ridiculously, so Marufa Rax has taken that wicket in her first over. First ball of her third over is square driven for 6 by Adipatu, because she's a left-hander, so the ball swinging away from her doesn't bother her as much as it coming back in to the right-handers. She motors on for a while, gets to 40-ish, 46, and then that sort of absurd, fascinating, strange scenario where Atapatu smashed the ball back at Rabea Khan. It's hit her on the wrist. She's in a lot of pain. She's got magic spray. She's got ice. It takes like 10 minutes to get her back and ready. Then she bowls the next ball, Atapatu LBW, after that long delay from around the wicket, sort of comes in with the arm. The huge appeal, maybe the loudest appeal I've ever heard, after nearly having had her arm taken off. And then it's given not out. Then they review it. Then it's deemed to be out. Then the scream of triumph from the bowler, doing the sort of Freddie Flintoff Jesus thing in the DRS scrum. And then Samara Vikram has run out shortly after that. Kavisha Dulari is accidentally stumped. So Jyoti manages to, well, I mean, it wasn't really a ball she could have taken.
Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. I want to talk about that later. Don't go into detail.
Okay. All right. We'll come back to that stumping another time. But it's 4 for 100 at this point. And then there's the period you mentioned. Lakshya De Silva comes out and just whacks a couple of sixes. Hasini Pereira goes to 50 with a 6. And they take the score up to 174 for 5 before the next rush of wickets happens. The Hasini Pereira bit, she got dropped a couple of times, but played a hell of an innings. Left-hander, she played through cover well. She almost doubled her previous best score, Daniel. So before today, 46. Today she made 85. And then with wickets falling around her, I think just got into her own head and got too anxious about what she was trying to do and tried to play a standing reverse sweep that she missed. But on 85, there are some great numbers with this Sri Lankan team. The Sri Lankan women's team, its entire history, Daniel, has enjoyed 11 one-day centuries, of which 9 have been made by Adipatu. So there are 2 non-Adipatu centuries that have ever been made. There are 3 scores in the 90s, all Chamari Adipatu. There's 1 score of 88 from a player who is not Chamari Adipatu, which was in 2002. And that's it. So 85 today from Hasini Pereira was, there have only been 3 better non-Adipatu scores in the history of Sri Lankan women's cricket.
Vishmi Gunaratne, and I think Hashita Samara
Vikrama got one.
Are the other 2. And they both happened last year. In the last year, yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so at one point, Adipatu had all of the hundreds that a Sri Lankan woman had ever made. And today I thought Hasini Pereira's going to join that club. She'll become the 3rd. And then those wickets started falling. De Silva slices Shauna Akhter to backward point. Sanjiwani returned catch in Shauna Akhter's following over. Nishita, the kid off spinner, gets Sugandhika Kumari out in the over after that. And then, suddenly they've lost 3 for 6, and that's when Hasini Pereira tries the reverse sweep and gets out to Shauna Akhter as well, who's then just allowed to bowl at not the last pair, but the second last pair. So there's a point in which she bowls 39 balls that concede 6 runs, and she's taken 3 wickets in that time. But they bat, Daniel. They bat from the 36th over to the 48th, the second last pair, before there's a swing from Pravadani who misses and gets bowled, and then Malki Madara gets run out in the 49th over. But if they didn't do that, different game.
Yeah, I mean, I had a little bit of my commentator's hat on at that point, thinking how insane with rage would I currently be watching this, because between Prabodhani and Malki Madara, they scored 17 runs. They did them in 79 balls. There were 2 fours in there, so they got 9 runs off the other 77 balls. And I can assure you that if you were in that box, you'd be going, get on with it. Get on with it.
I enjoyed it so much.
Do something. I mean, luckily, I was watching it in a bar in the hotel indoors, so I was loving absolutely every minute of it. And as you say, it proved to be match-winning. We then jump forward to a Bangladesh innings.
The enjoyment I had from the lack of scoring at the end of the Sri Lanka innings was because I was thinking, this is the only option you have and you're doing the right thing. And the lack of enjoyment for exactly the same style of play at the start of the Bangladesh innings was, this is not the only thing you can do. There are other things you can do, even though Rubia Haider was out early, caught behind.
Well, this is my point. So let's just very briefly, like I love 50-over cricket because of the warp and weft, the to and fro, the things that can happen. If you were casually watching that game, from 182 for 8 in the first innings after 35.3 overs, you'd have then watched a further 13.1 overs unfold for 20 runs. And you would then have watched Bangladesh go out to bat. And when their second wicket fell, 10.2 overs had gone and it was 24 for 2. So what you would have watched in that glorious hour and a half would have been 44 for 4 in 23 overs. And you would have been forgiven for thinking that you were genuinely watching Ken Barrington bat in 1965. It was truly startlingly magnificent. It was fortunate that, I didn't have anything else to do today except watch that game. Because thereafter, we did actually discover that there was something in these Bangladeshi batters. Sharmin Akhtar actually batted pretty well. I mean, she got cramp. There's been a lot of it around. There's been a lot of retirements and whatnot because of the conditions. Nigar Sultana Jyoti today, 77 off 98. That's proper batting. I mean, that's exactly the sort of thing that Bangladesh want. And
if you're chasing 200, that's great. That's terrific. That is a fantastic strike rate to chase 200. And Sharmin Akhtar has been terrific. She made that 50 against South Africa. She looks a polished competitor at a different level to the others. I think. So Rubia Haider, the early wicket, it's off Prabhadani, the slow seamer. It was a lovely catch from Sanjivani up to the stumps. Right, that's okay. Then you have the bit with Pinky. I suspect, I have no proof for this, but I reckon that she got run out deliberately. I reckon that if you're Sharmin Akhtar and you're in there and your partner's got 7 off 35 balls.
35 with 1-4, by the way, with 1-4.
Your partner's 7 off 35 and Sharmin Akhtar calls for a run and just goes, yeah, we're taking it. And it was a torch, but I don't think it was an accident. Like, fuck off out of here. We've got a job to do. And then it actually helped. It actually worked because Jyoti came in and got going. And they weren't scoring at a crazy rate, but they were scoring at a decent, consistent rate. And everything's looking good until the retired hurt, which, and she was hobbling so badly at that point. Sharmin Akhtar, like she could barely move. She had to come off. The decision was to come off. I wonder if it would have been better if she'd stayed and just tried to hit, but that would have felt desperate at that point of an innings. They went, okay, we'll try to get her back up and running, but she didn't come back in later. I mean, she must have been bad enough that she couldn't return. And Shauna Akhtar comes out, and it's not like, yes, she hit 50 off 30 balls the other night, but then she also made 7 off 24 balls in her next outing. She's a teenager. She's not the finished article. You can't expect her to come out and win a match with the bat every time. Not that they won that game in the end, although they should have been match winning and wasn't. But it felt too early. It was the 35th, 36th over when she's got to come in to replace the injured player.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. With all these things, you just don't know. You're constantly speculating. It's the pain that the player is in, and you have to rely on them to make the right decision. What it did do was it created a truly fantastic end. 10 needed off 9 balls, with 6 wickets in hand, and an actor who could return. She could play best actor, best supporting actor. There were a whole bunch of actor roles for them, and every single actor just bombed. Because and it was genuinely hilarious. I mean, 10 off 9, and I know what you mean, a runner ball does not by any means guarantee Bangladesh victory. It mostly does the opposite. But even with 6 wickets in hand, you thought, this should happen. Nigar Sultana Jyoti is still there, right? It was the 4 wickets in 4 balls in the last over is going to grab the headlines. But actually, it was the 3 balls before the start of the last over that sealed their fate.
Yep.
Because Rita Mooney gets out. They managed to scramble a single. There's a dot ball. So now it really is
Three,
horrible
three
because
off the
it's
second
nine.
last
It's
over.
9 off the last over. When it's
Yeah.
10 off 9, you're thinking, come on, this is still theirs. When it's
Yep.
9 off the last over, alarm bells are sounding. And
Yep.
believe you me, it's Diwali here in India. You can't normally hear alarm bells. You can't normally hear alarm bells on a normal
No.
day in India. You can't hear jack shit today. I can assure you of that. It's sending me moderately mad. But one thing I could hear, and very, very loudly, with the alarm bells for Bangladesh at that point, and the tears, they weren't rolling down my cheeks, but they were rolling down the inside of my body for Bangladesh, because you knew it and you could see it and you could feel it. And there were the mirthless laughs of the damned throughout, as first Rabia Khan, then Nahida Akhtar, then Nigar Sultana Jyoti, then Marufa Akhtar, who incidentally walked out to bat without a helmet. Really liked that. She forgot to refer, incidentally, not that it would have helped her at all. She just looked utterly baffled. She'd come out angrily, going to score some runs, and angrily walked across her stumps to try to dab the ball into the onside for an ineffectual single. It was one of the great Marufa Akhtar performances. And everybody knew that it was over, and the cameras cut to the bench, and the look of bewilderment and sadness. I don't know. Maybe I should take my focus away from that and put my focus to Sri Lanka, because they've also been denied in this World Cup. They were denied by the rain in their own country. Well, they were denied actually by the authorities refusing to start the game at 11 o'clock. The rain in their own country has always come in their country at that time of year, at that time of day. But they might well have beaten New Zealand. They had great moments against England. They had brilliant moments against India in the very first game when they weren't even playing in a home patch. So today someone was going to get some just desserts, and I will save my tears for Bangladesh, and I will instead transfer my joy to a Sri Lankan side that's finally got over the line themselves, and I'm delighted on their part. And do you know what? They're still mathematically in, although it's not going to happen, with a chance of qualifying for the semi-finals.
Unless Daniel, unless India New Zealand is a washout. If India New Zealand's a washout, and other results go a certain way, and those teams both end up on 5 points, Sri Lanka can jump them with 6 points if they win one more. So
yeah, but unfortunately, they're not making that game take place in Colombo at 3:00 in the afternoon. So.
Hey, as we've seen this week, it can rain anywhere in the world. It rained everywhere in Australia at the same time. I think all of the Shield games are off for rain at some point, despite being in 3 different states. But yeah, what an ending it will be. And the fact that it was Atapatu, so the fact that Prabhadani's injured, she would normally bowl at the end of the innings. Atapatu has to bowl the last over herself. She's bowling spin. And what does she do? Takes 3 wickets, and there's a run out in there as well. So bowls, LBW, Rabea Khan, the first ball of the over. Then there's the run out where Nahida Akhtar sacrifices herself to get Jyoti back on strike. Then Jyoti hits one down the ground and is caught at long off. And then Marufa Akhtar is hit on the pad and leaves it too late to review. It probably would have been hitting anyway, although I didn't see a reconstruction. So, yeah, 4 wickets in 4 balls. And that's the game. The Hall of Fame is rich with possibility today. So I urge you to stick around. This may be my favourite Hall of Fame collection that I've put together yet in this tournament. But before we get to the Hall of Fame, a word for our great friends at Lacuna Sports. When we say focus on your game, because Lacuna have your kit covered, we mean women and girls who are playing cricket and who are playing in ill-fitting, annoying, inappropriate kit, because it's men's kit, it's boys' kit. It doesn't fit them properly. It's not fit for purpose. And the ask to you is if you're playing, if you're involved in the game, get women and girls in cricket teamwear that fits. If you're running a cricket club, if your kids are playing at a cricket club, if you are playing at a cricket club, tell other people to move towards the thing that's going to actually work for you. You go to lacunasports.co.uk, you see the range that they've got, and you can contact them. You can ask them questions. You can say, hey, it'd be nice if we had something that did this. And there is a non-zero chance that they will then take that on and possibly make it. This has happened before. They've made kit in collaboration with players who've had particular asks. They work with clubs to do bespoke stuff to make sure that you've got kit that fits the entire club and every player there. This is what they're about. It's about making sure that the equipment is not a barrier to playing the game.
It's a fantastic initiative, and it's ridiculous to me that it's taken this long for it to happen. And I guess, in part, I am responsible for that, as is everybody else who's run a cricket club, because we've not sat down in our committee meetings and said, do you know, why haven't we got enough women and girls playing in this game? Because we haven't bothered to quiz and ask the questions in the past. But instead of getting annoyed with ourselves, let's actually try and do something about it into the future. We've got the opportunity to try and right some of these wrongs. And with Lacuna, we've got the perfect partner to make that happen.
We will be back in just a moment with the Hall of Fame. It is the final word, the Women's World Cup Daily. Daniel, I have to go to the end of the first innings and the sequence, some of which in isolation would not necessarily be considered funny, but which, if you put it all together, was a remarkably chaotic and sequence that was still full of moments to admire. So one part, I believe this starts with Prabodani, who's out there batting in that second last wicket partnership. I could just call it a ninth wicket partnership, couldn't I? The one that was trying to save the game and indeed did end up saving the game, where she has a gallop to try to slog a ball, collapses with either cramp or probably what turned out to be a torn muscle of some sort. Jyoti behind the stumps misses the ball, which ricochets up and hits her in the throat. They both collapse to the ground at the same time. Now, being hit in the throat by a cricket ball is not individually funny, but you've just got to stick with me on this. So both players have collapsed. The stumping's been missed. This is after the 10 drop catches. The opportunity to press the game towards its conclusion has gone. The keeper's getting treatment. The batter's getting treatment. You've got both sets of substitutes out there at the same time surrounding everybody. They finally decide the batter will continue, but the keeper will not. So Jyoti gets taken off. Rubia Haider, who did the job with the gloves the other day for the whole game, is subbed in. And then the first ball that she gets, there's the throw comes in for a run out, which she fumbles and misses the run out. So you've missed the stumping. Then you've missed the run out with two different keepers because one of them's off injured, but the injured batter's still playing. And then you get the bit with Marufa Akhtar, and you and I have bonded over our love for the work of Marufa Akhtar. Fabulous player. What I didn't know until today, tough as fucking nails. My word, the collision at backward point, where she's coming in from cover, the backward point fielder's coming in, the ball's between them, and Marufa Akhtar gets her legs taken out from under her like Danny Tiato's coming in with the studs up, fields the ball in her left hand, I think, goes arse over head over the player who's slid into her, crashes to the ground, and still comes up holding the ball ready to throw it, right? Hasn't lost hold of the ball in all of this brouhaha. And then, what is it? One ball, two balls later, whatever it is, the ball's laced through cover. I'm watching it. I go, oh, that's four. And then I go, that's Marufa chasing it, so it's possibly not four. If it were anybody else, it would be. She streams after it. She gets there, dives, taps it back, flies over the rope, crashes into the fence in terrifying fashion. The ball then has enough backspin on it that it somehow just trickles into the boundary rope, so that it's futile in the end. She hits the rope. I have that horrible heart in my mouth thing of like, oh, God, please don't have done a shoulder or knocked yourself out or something. Why are the advertising boards close enough to the rope? You've got the ropes are brought in a long way on these grounds. Could you not have them far enough back that people don't crash into them when they try to do acrobatic fielding? That would be great. You know, Ricky Ponting's knee says hello. But she smashed that board, gone down like a sack of old clothes, lying on the ground motionless for a bit, and then just gets up and dusts herself off and goes, oh, well, and then bowls the last over. And then comes out in the last over of the chase, no hat, ponytail, no helmet. I mean, yeah, she got out and it didn't work, but God, it would have been good if she'd smacked a couple of boundaries and won it for him.
Yeah, I adore that woman. I mean, she's like certainly up there with my heroes of this tournament. Her game face is the gamiest of all faces. It's just fantastic.
She's flat out my favourite women's cricketer by a mile.
She's feeling that way for me too. Yeah, I think so. Look, today there were so many to choose from. We've talked about so much of this game. The last over of the match was completely chaotic. Everything about it was like watching. It was watching two sides that didn't know how to win, and they demonstrated this superbly by attempting to lose at all times. But
except Adapatu, who does know how to win, who's been walking around for a whole career going, would you fucking mind somebody trying to keep up with me? And it was very fitting that she just had to do the job herself.
Well, there was that. There is that person there, and I suppose her being there centre stage at the end was appropriate. But for me, in a packed field, it's the craziest, the most unlucky dismissal of the day for me is Kavisha Dilhari. So I was explaining. I was watching in the bar in indoor, and she chops the ball down, and I see the zing bells go off, and I go, "Oh, that's Boulder." But apparently not. Like Dilhari's like, no, that didn't hit the stumps off my bat. No, it's not bowled. So I sort of go to the bar and get myself a top up, get another beer, and I'm just like idly looking at the screen thinking, oh, that just must have just, bounced somewhere off the wicket keeper or whatnot. And then I see the full horror unfold, that the ball bounced off the bottom of Dilhari's bat up into the air and hits Niya Sultana Jyoti somewhere around her body, completely unknowingly. It rebounds off her onto the stumps, which is why the zing bells lit on. Now, Dilhari herself was pretty much always in the crease, except for a fleeting moment. And unfortunately, this fleeting moment, when the back foot just raised up off the ground, happened to coincide with the precise moment that the ball hit the stumps. And you thought, are you having a fucking laugh? What? You can't get unluckier than that. And
no. And how is it out? How is that out? In what sense has the batter done something wrong?
And in what sense has the keeper done anything right?
Yes.
It was everything about that was pure cricket, and it was basically symptomatic of the tournaments that these teams have had. Chaos, randomicity, Hall of Fame worthy, magnificent game of cricket, brilliant to watch in all of its own ways. But there will be at least 11 players from Bangladesh who are this evening just thinking, what have they done to deserve this? And there will be a Sri Lankan side going, do you know, if we'd just been able to play a couple more games in our own country, we might have qualified for the semi-finals. So no one's happy, and that's how we like it. Everybody's miserable. That's good.
No, nobody is happy. Where is Sri Lanka? They've got, they're sixth. So they've got Pakistan. They've got a net run rate problem, which is that they're -1, but New Zealand are minus 0.24. I mean, that's quite a lot to make up. India are plus by a little bit, but if you couldn't. You'd need the India-New Zealand game to be a very close one either way, and then you'd need Sri Lanka to hammer Pakistan. But
the washout's what you're after.
The washout or the tie, the New Zealand-India tie. That could make things very interesting. I just hope that this doesn't leave this Bangladesh side so deflated, because they have made progress. And for all that you can poke fun at some bits and that there are the ragged bits that go off the rails, they're still a much better team than they were even 5 years ago, let alone 10.
Look, they're a bloody good team. And actually, what this World Cup should have told people, if they have watched it at all closely, is that Sri Lanka, Pakistan, and Bangladesh are a damn sight better than they used to be. And part of that is because they played more cricket, and that is a really significant part of it. But also, you're just starting to see some batters emerge. And in 50-over cricket, that's absolutely vital. They've always had bowlers who've been able to do stuff. Bangladesh particularly, I think, have got the strongest of the bowling lineups. Pakistan are up there as well. You just hope that with a little bit of a nudge, with a little bit of help, and playing more and more cricket, we're going to see a much closer World Cup in 4 years' time, where I reckon these sides can start taking points off the likes of New Zealand and England and South Africa.
I just reckon if this Bangladesh team had won one of these three close ones, let alone having won a couple and potentially making a semi, but even if they just sealed it against South Africa and then missed out narrowly, that would be enough to buoy them through the next 4 years to go, okay, we're getting closer. Whereas the fact that they've lost the three close ones, I worry that might puncture a big enough hole in their enthusiasm and confidence.
Marufa Akhtar's not going to let that happen, Jeff. Don't you worry. Marufa is not going to let that happen.
we trust. Roof, roof. That's what we say in the crowd. Okay, that's it. This has been the Final Word Women's World Cup Daily. If you want to support us making the show, please do. You can go to patreon.com/thefinalword. You can join up. You can be part of the whole online community that are in our private fenced-off Discord, so the weirdos don't get in, just our weirdos, our kind of weirdos, where they're chatting about the games and having a nice time. You can support us. You can help us go around the world and do the things that we do, and you can be part of a lot of other things besides. Go and check it out. Thanks to Lacuna Sports. Their information is in the show notes. Daniel, thank you. This is it. This is our show. We will be back for day 22 because that's how a daily show works. Ta-ta.
Turtle pep.